Sahih Bukhari Book 54. Beginning of Creation. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 413. Narrated by Imran bin Husayn, some people of Bani Tamim came to the Prophet and he said, to them, O Bani Tamim, rejoice with glad tidings. They said, you have given us glad tidings, now give us something. On hearing that, the color of his face changed. Then the people of Yemen came to him and he said, O people of Yemen, accept the good tidings, as Bani Tamim has refused them. The Yemenites said, we accept them. Then the Prophet started talking about the beginning of creation and about Allah's throne. In the meantime a man came saying, O Imran, your she-camel has run away. I got up and went away, but I wish I had not left that place, for I missed what Allah's apostle had said. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 414. Narrated by Imran bin Husayn, I went to the Prophet and tied my she-camel at the gate. The people of Bani Tamim came to the Prophet who said, O Bani Tamim, accept the good tidings. They said twice, you have given us the good tidings, now give us something. Then some Yemenites came to him and he said, accept the good tidings, O people of Yemen, for Bani Tamim refused them. They said, we accept it, O Allah's apostle. We have come to ask you about this matter, i.e. the start of creations. He said, first of all, there was nothing but Allah, and then he created his throne. His throne was over the water, and he wrote everything in the book, in the heaven, and created the heavens and the earth. Then a man shouted, O Ibn Husayn, your she-camel has gone away. So, I went away and could not see the she-camel because of the mirage. By Allah, I wished I had left that she-camel, but not that gathering. Narrated Umar, one day the Prophet stood up amongst us for a long period and informed us about the beginning of creation, and talked about everything in detail, till he mentioned how the people of paradise will enter their places and the people of hell will enter their places. Some remembered what he had said, and some forgot it. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 415. Narrated by Abu Huraira, Allah's apostle said, Allah the Most Superior said, the son of Adam slights me, and he should not slight me, and he disbelieves in me, and he ought not to do so. As for his slighting me, it is that he says that I have a son, and his disbelief in me is his statement that I shall not recreate him as I have created him before. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 416. Narrated by Abu Huraira, Allah's apostle said, when Allah completed the creation, he wrote in his book which is with him on his throne, my mercy overpowers my anger. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 417. Narrated by Muhammad bin Ibrahim bin al-Harith, from Abu Salama bin Abdurrahman, who had a dispute with some people on a piece of land, and so he went to Aisha and told her about it. She said, O Abu Salama, avoid the land, for Allah's apostle said, any person who takes even a span of land unjustly, his neck shall be encircled with it down 7 earths. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 418. Narrated by Salim's father, the Prophet said, any person who takes a piece of land unjustly will sink down the 7 earths on the day of resurrection. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 419. Narrated by Abu Bakr, the Prophet said, the division of time has turned to its original form which was current when Allah created the heavens and the earths. The year is of 12 months, out of which 4 months are sacred, 3 are in succession Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, and Muharram, and the 4th is Rajab of the tribe of Madar, which comes between Jamadiyati Thaniya and Shaban. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 420. Narrated by Said bin Zayd bin Amr bin Nufail, that Airway sued him before Marwan for a right, which she claimed, he had deprived her of. On that said, How should I deprive her of her right? I testify that I heard Allah's apostle saying, if anyone takes a span of land unjustly, his neck will be encircled with it down 7 earths on the day of resurrection. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 421. Narrated by Abu Dhar, the Prophet asked me at sunset, do you know where the sun goes, at the time of sunset? I replied, Allah and His Apostle know better. He said, it goes, i.e. travels, till it prostrates itself underneath the throne and takes the permission to rise again, and it is permitted, and then, a time will come when, it will be about to prostrate itself but its prostration will not be accepted, and it will ask permission to go on its course but it will not be permitted, but it will be ordered to return whence it has come and so it will rise in the west. And that is the interpretation of the statement of Allah, and the sun runs its fixed course for a term, decreed, that is the decree of Allah, the exalted in might, the all-knowing. 36.38. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 422. Narrated by Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, the sun and the moon will be folded up, deprived of their light, on the day of resurrection. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 423. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar, the Prophet said, the sun and the moon do not eclipse because of someone's death or wife, i.e. birth, but they are 2 signs amongst the signs of Allah. So, if you see them, i.e. eclipse, offer the prayer, of eclipse. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 424. Narrated by Abdullah bin Abbas, the Prophet said, the sun and the moon are 2 signs amongst the signs of Allah. They do not eclipse because of someone's death or life. So, if you see them, i.e. eclipse, celebrate the praises of Allah, i.e. pray. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 425. Narrated by Aisha, on the day of a solar eclipse, Allah's apostle stood up, to offer the eclipse prayer. He recited takbir, recited a long recitation, of holy verses, bowed a long bowing, and then he raised his head saying, Allah hears him who sends his praises to him. Then he stayed standing, recited a long recitation again, but shorter than the former, bowed a long bowing, but shorter than the first, performed a long prostration and then performed the second rak'ah in the same way as he had done the first. By the time he had finished his prayer with taslim, the solar eclipse had been over. Then he addressed the people referring to the solar and lunar eclipses saying, these are 2 signs amongst the signs of Allah, and they do not eclipse because of anyone's death or life. So, if you see them, hasten for the prayer. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 426. Narrated by Abu Mas'udi, the Prophet said, the sun and the moon do not eclipse because of the death or life of someone, but they are 2 signs amongst the signs of Allah. So, if you see them, offer the prayer, of eclipse. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 427. Narrated by Ibn Abbas, the Prophet said, I have been made victorious with the Saba, i.e. easterly wind, and the people of Ad were destroyed with the Dabur, i.e. westerly wind. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 428. Narrated by Atta, Aisha said if the Prophet saw a cloud in the sky, he would walk to and fro in agitation, go out and come in, and the color of his face would change, and if it rained, he would feel relaxed. So Aisha knew that state of his. So the Prophet said, I don't know, am afraid, it may be similar to what happened to some people referred to in the Holy Quran in the following verse, then when they saw it as a dense cloud coming towards their valleys, they said, this is a cloud bringing us rain. Nay, but, it is that, torment, which you were asking to be hastened, a wind wherein is severe torment. 46.24. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 429. Narrated by Malik bin Sa'sa, the Prophet said, "While I was at the house in a state midway between sleep and wakefulness, an angel recognized me, as the man lying between two men. A golden tray full of wisdom and belief was brought to me, and my body was cut open from the throat to the lower part of the abdomen, and then my abdomen was washed with Zamzam water, and my heart was filled with wisdom and belief. Al-Burak, a white animal, smaller than a mule and bigger than a donkey, was brought to me, and I set out with Gabriel. When I reached the nearest heaven, Gabriel said to the heaven gatekeeper, 'Open the gate.' The gatekeeper asked, 'Who is it?' He said, 'Gabriel.' The gatekeeper, 'Who is accompanying you?' Gabriel said, 'Muhammad.' The gatekeeper said, 'Has he been called?' Gabriel said, 'Yes.' Then it was said, 'He is welcomed. What a wonderful visit his is.' Then I met Adam and greeted him, and he said, 'You are welcomed, O son and a prophet.' Then we ascended to the second heaven. It was asked, 'Who is it?' Gabriel said, 'Gabriel.' It was said, 'Who is with you?' He said, 'Muhammad.' It was asked, 'Has he been sent for?' He said, 'Yes.' It was said, 'He is welcomed. What a wonderful visit his is.' Then I met Jesus and Yahya, John, who said, 'You are welcomed, O brother and a prophet.' Then we ascended to the third heaven. It was asked, 'Who is it?' Gabriel said, 'Gabriel.' It was asked, 'Who is with you?' Gabriel said, 'Muhammad.' It was asked, 'Has he been sent for?' 'Yes,' said Gabriel. 'He is welcomed. What a wonderful visit his is.' The Prophet added, 'There I met Joseph and greeted him, and he replied, 'You are welcomed, O brother and a prophet.' Then we ascended to the fourth heaven, and again the same questions and answers were exchanged as in the previous heavens. There I met Idris and greeted him. He said, 'You are welcomed, O brother and prophet.' Then we ascended to the fifth heaven, and again the same questions and answers were exchanged as in previous heavens. There I met and greeted Aaron, who said, 'You are welcomed, O brother and a prophet.' Then we ascended to the sixth heaven, and again the same questions and answers were exchanged as in the previous heavens. There I met and greeted Moses, who said, 'You are welcomed, O brother and a prophet.' When I proceeded on, he started weeping, and on being asked why he was weeping, he said, 'O Lord, followers of this youth who was sent after me will enter paradise in greater number than my followers.' Then we ascended to the seventh heaven, and again the same questions and answers were exchanged as in the previous heavens. There I met and greeted Abraham, who said, 'You are welcomed, O son and a prophet.' Then I was shown Al-Bayt al-Ma'mur, i.e. Allah's house. I asked Gabriel about it, and he said, 'This is Al-Bayt al-Ma'mur, where 70,000 angels perform prayers daily, and when they leave they never return to it, but always a fresh batch comes into it daily.' Then I was shown Sidratul Muntaha, i.e. a tree, in the seventh heaven, and I saw its nabk fruits, which resembled the clay jugs of Hajr, i.e. a town in Arabia, and its leaves were like the ears of elephants, and 4 rivers originated at its root, 2 of them were apparent and 2 were hidden. I asked Gabriel about those rivers, and he said, 'The 2 hidden rivers are in paradise, and the apparent ones are the Nile and the Euphrates.' Then 50 prayers were enjoined on me. I descended till I met Moses, who asked me, 'What have you done?' I said, 50 prayers have been enjoined on me.' He said, 'I know the people better than you, because I had the hardest experience to bring Bani Israel to obedience. Your followers cannot put up with such obligation. So, return to your Lord and request him to reduce the number of prayers.' I returned and requested Allah for reduction, and he made it 40. I returned and met Moses, and had a similar discussion, and then returned again to Allah for reduction, and he made it 30, then 20, then 10, and then I came to Moses, who repeated the same advice. Ultimately Allah reduced it to 5. When I came to Moses again, he said, 'What have you done?' I said, 'Allah has made it 5 only.' He repeated the same advice, but I said that I surrendered, To Allah's final order, Allah's apostle was addressed by Allah, I have decreed my obligation and have reduced the burden on my slaves, and I shall reward a single good deed as if it were 10 good deeds. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 430. Narrated by Abdullah bin Mus'ud, Allah's apostle, the true and truly inspired said, the matter of the creation of a human being is put together in the womb of the mother in 40 days, and then he becomes a clot of thick blood for a similar period, and then a piece of flesh for a similar period. Then Allah sends an angel who is ordered to write 4 things. He is ordered to write down his, i.e. the new creature's, deeds, his livelihood, his date of death, and whether he will be blessed or wretched, in religion. Then the soul is breathed into him. So, a man amongst you may do good deeds till there is only a cubit between him and paradise, and then what has been written for him decides his behavior, and he starts doing evil deeds characteristic of the people of the hell fire. And similarly a man amongst you may do evil deeds till there is only a cubit between him and the hell fire, and then what has been written for him decides his behavior, and he starts doing deeds characteristic of the people of paradise. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 431. Narrated by Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, if Allah loves a person, he calls Gabriel saying, Allah loves so and so, O Gabriel. Love him. Gabriel would love him and make an announcement amongst the inhabitants of the heaven. Allah loves so and so, therefore you should love him also, and so all the inhabitants of the heaven would love him, and then he is granted the pleasure of the people on the earth. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 432. Narrated by Aisha, I heard Allah's apostle saying, the angels descend, the clouds, and mention this or that matter decreed in the heaven. The devils listen stealthily to such a matter. Come down to inspire the soothsayers with it, and the latter would add to it 100 lies of their own. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 433. Narrated by Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, on every Friday the angels take air stand at every gate of the mosques to write the names of the people chronologically, i.e. according to the time of their arrival for the Friday prayer, and when the Imam sits on the pulpit, they fold up their scrolls and get ready to listen to the sermon. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 434. Narrated by Sa'id bin al-Musayyib, Umar came to the mosque while Hassan was reciting a poem. Umar disapproved of that. On that Hassan said, I used to recite poetry in this very mosque in the presence of one, i.e. the Prophet, who was better than you. Then he turned towards Abu Huraira and said, to him, I ask you by Allah, did you hear Allah's apostle saying, to me, retort on my behalf? O Allah! Support him, i.e. Hassan, with the Holy Spirit. Abu Huraira said, yes. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 435. Narrated by Al-Bara, the Prophet said to Hassan, lampoon them, i.e. the pagans, and Gabriel is with you. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 436. Narrated by Jarir, as below, Hadith 437. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 437. Narrated by Humayd bin Hilal, Anas bin Malik said, as if I say a cloud of dust swirling up in the lane of Bani Ghanim. Musa added, that was caused by the procession of Gabriel. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 438. Narrated by Aisha, Al-Harith bin Hisham asked the Prophet, how does the divine inspiration come to you? He replied, in all these ways, the angel sometimes comes to me with a voice which resembles the sound of a ringing bell, and when this state abandons me, I remember what the angel has said, and this type of divine inspiration is the hardest on me, and sometimes the angel comes to me in the shape of a man and talks to me, and I understand and remember what he says. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 439. Narrated by Abu Huraira, I heard the Prophet saying, whoever spends a couple of objects in Allah's cause will be called by the gatekeepers of paradise, who will say, O so and so, come on. Abu Bakr said, such a person will never perish or be miserable. The Prophet said, I hope you will be among such person. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 440. Narrated by Abu Salama, Aisha said that the Prophet said to her, O Aisha, this is Gabriel and he sends his greetings, salutations to you. Aisha said, salutations, greetings, to him, and Allah's mercy and blessings be on him, and addressing the Prophet she said, you see what I don't see. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 441. Narrated by Ibn Abbas, Allah's Apostle asked Gabriel, why don't you visit us more often than you do? Then the following holy verse was revealed, in this respect, and we, angels, descend not but by the order of your Lord. To him belong what is before us and what is behind us, and what is between those two, and your Lord was never forgetful. 19.64. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 442. Narrated by Ibn Abbas, Allah's Apostle said, Gabriel read the Quran to me in one way, i.e. dialect, and I continued asking him to read it in different ways till he read it in 7 different ways. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 443. Narrated by Ibn Abbas, Allah's Apostle was the most generous of all the people, and he used to be more generous in the month of Ramadan when Gabriel used to meet him. Gabriel used to meet him every night in Ramadan to study the Holy Quran carefully together. Allah's Apostle used to become more generous than the fast wind when he met Gabriel. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 444. Narrated by Ibn Shihab, once Umar bin Abdul Aziz delayed the Asr prayer a little. Urwa said to him, Gabriel descended and led the prayer in front of the Prophet. On that Umar said, O Urwa, be sure of what you say. Urwa, I heard Bashir bin Abi Masud narrating from Ibn Masud, who heard Allah's Apostle saying, Gabriel descended and led me in prayer, and then prayed with him again, 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 counting with his fingers 5 prayers. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 445. Narrated by Abu Dhar, the Prophet said, Gabriel said to me, whoever amongst your followers die without having worshipped others besides Allah, will enter paradise, or will not enter the hell, fire. The Prophet asked, even if he has committed illegal sexual intercourse or theft? He replied, even then. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 446. Narrated by Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, angels keep on descending from and ascending to the heaven in turn, some at night and some by daytime, and all of them assemble together at the time of the Fajr and Asr prayers. Then those who have stayed with you overnight, ascend unto Allah, who asks them, and he knows the answer better than they, how have you left my slaves? They reply, we have left them praying as we found them praying. If any one of you says Amen, during the prayer at the end of the recitation of Surat al-Fatiha, and the angels in heaven say the same, and the two sayings coincide, all his past sins will be forgiven. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 447. Narrated by Aisha, I stuffed for the Prophet a pillow decorated with pictures of animals, which looked like a namruka, i.e. a small cushion. He came and stood among the people with excitement apparent on his face. I said, O Allah's Apostle, what is wrong? He said, what is this pillow? I said, I have prepared this pillow for you, so that you may recline on it. He said, don't you know that angels do not enter a house wherein there are pictures, and whoever makes a picture will be punished on the day of resurrection and will be asked to give life to what he has created. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 448. Narrated by Abu Talha, I heard Allah's Apostle saying, "Angels, of mercy, do not enter a house wherein there is a dog or a picture of a living creature, a human being or an animal." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 449. Narrated by Busr bin said, that Zayd bin Khalid al-Juhani narrated to him something in the presence of Said bin Ubaydullah al-Qalani, who was brought up in the house of Ma'imuna, the wife of the Prophet. Zayd narrated to them that Abu Talha said that the Prophet said, "The angels, of mercy, do not enter a house wherein there is a picture." Busr said, later on Zayd bin Khalid fell ill and we called on him. To our surprise we saw a curtain decorated with pictures in his house. I said to Ubaydullah al-Qalani, "Didn't he, i.e. Zayd, tell us about the prohibition of pictures?" He said, "But he accepted the embroidery on garments." "Didn't you hear him?" I said, "No." He said, "Yes, he did." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 450. Narrated by Salim's father, once Gabriel promised the Prophet that he would visit him, but Gabriel did not come, and later on he said, "We, angels, do not enter a house which contains a picture or a dog." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 451. Narrated by Abu Huraira, Allah's Apostle said, when the Imam, during the prayer, says, "Allah hears him who praises him," say, "O Allah, our Lord, all the praises are for you, for if the saying of any one of you coincides with the saying of the angels, his past sins will be forgiven." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 452. Narrated by Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, "As long as any one of you is waiting for the prayer, he is considered to be praying actually, and the angels say, 'O Allah, be merciful to him and forgive him,' and go on saying so, unless he leaves his place of praying or passes wind, i.e. breaks his ablution." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 453. Narrated by Yali, I heard the Prophet reciting the following verse on the pulpit, "They will call, O Mali," and Sufyan said that Abdullah recited it, "They will call, O Mali," 43.77. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 454. Narrated by Aisha, that she asked the Prophet, "Have you encountered a day harder than the day of the battle of Uhud?" The Prophet replied, "Your tribes have troubled me a lot, and the worst trouble was the trouble on the day of Aqaba when I presented myself to Ibn Abd Yalal bin Abd Kulal and he did not respond to my demand. So I departed, overwhelmed with excessive sorrow, and proceeded on, and could not relax till I found myself at Qarnath-Alib, where I lifted my head towards the sky to see a cloud shading me unexpectedly. I looked up and saw Gabriel in it. He called me saying, 'Allah has heard your people saying to you, and what they have replied back to you, Allah has sent the angel of the mountains to you so that you may order him to do whatever you wish to these people.' The angel of the mountains called and greeted me, and then said, 'O Muhammad, order what you wish. If you like, I will let al-Akshabain, i.e. 2 mountains, fall on them.' The Prophet said, 'No, but I hope that Allah will let them beget children who will worship Allah alone, and will worship none besides him.' Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 455. Narrated by Abu Ishaq Ash-Shaybani, I asked Zur bin Hubaysh regarding the statement of Allah, and was at a distance of but 2 bow lengths or, even, nearer, so did Allah convey the inspiration to his slave, Gabriel, and then he, Gabriel, conveyed that to Muhammad. 53.9-10, on that, Zur said, Ibn Mas'ud informed us that the Prophet had seen Gabriel having 600 wings. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 456. Narrated by Abdullah, regarding the verse, indeed he, Muhammad, did see of the signs of his Lord, the greatest. 53.18, that the Prophet had seen a green carpet spread all over the horizon of the sky. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 457. Narrated by Aisha, whoever claimed that, the Prophet, Muhammad saw his Lord, is committing a great fault, for he only saw Gabriel in his genuine shape in which he was created covering the whole horizon. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 458. Narrated by Masruq, I asked Aisha what about his statement, then he, Gabriel, approached and came closer, and was at a distance of but 2 bow lengths or, even, nearer. 53.8-9, she replied, it was Gabriel who used to come to the Prophet in the figure of a man, but on that occasion, he came in his actual and real figure and, he was so huge, that he covered the whole horizon. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 459. Narrated by Samura, the Prophet said, last night I saw, in a dream, 2 men coming to me. One of them said, the person who kindles the fire is Malik, the gatekeeper of the hell fire, and I am Gabriel, and this is Michael. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 460. Narrated by Abu Huraira, Allah's Apostle said, if a husband calls his wife to his bed, i.e. to have sexual relation, and she refuses and causes him to sleep in anger, the angels will curse her till morning. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 461. Narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah, that he heard the Prophet saying, the divine inspiration was delayed for a short period but suddenly, as I was walking, I heard a voice in the sky, and when I looked up towards the sky, to my surprise, I saw the angel who had come to me in the Hira cave, and he was sitting on a chair in between the sky and the earth. I was so frightened by him that I fell on the ground and came to my family and said, to them, cover me with a blanket, cover me. Then Allah sent the revelation, oh, you wrapped up, in a blanket. Arise and warn. And your Lord magnify and keep pure your garments, and desert the idols. 74.1-5. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 462. Narrated by Ibn Abbas, the Prophet said, on the night of my ascent to the heaven, I saw Moses who was a tall brown curly-haired man as if he was one of the men of Shenawa tribe, and I saw Jesus, a man of medium height and moderate complexion inclined to the red and white colors and of lank hair. I also saw Malik, the gatekeeper of the hell fire and Ad-Dajjal amongst the signs which Allah showed me. The Prophet then recited the holy verse, so be not you in doubt of meeting him when you met Moses during the night of Miraj over the heavens. 32.23, narrated Anas and Abu Bakr, the Prophet said, the angels will guard Medina from Ad-Dajjal, who will not be able to enter the city of Medina. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 463. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar, Allah's Apostle said, when any one of you dies, he will be shown his destination both in the morning and in the evening, and if he belongs to the people of paradise, he will be shown his place in paradise, and if he is from the people of hell, he will be shown his place in hell. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 464. Narrated by Imran bin Husayn, the Prophet said, I looked at paradise and found poor people forming the majority of its inhabitants, and I looked at hell and saw that the majority of its inhabitants were women. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 465. Narrated by Abu Huraira, while we were in the company of the Prophet, he said, while I was asleep, I saw myself in paradise and there I beheld a woman making ablution beside a palace. I asked, to whom does this palace belong? They said, to Umar bin al-Khattab. Then I remembered Umar's Gara, concerning women, and so I quickly went away from that palace. When Umar heard this from the Prophet, he wept and said, "Do you think it is likely that I feel Gara because of you, O Allah's Apostle?" Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 466. Narrated by Abdullah bin Qais al-Ashari, the Prophet said, "A tent, in paradise, is like a hollow pearl which is 30 miles in height, and on every corner of the tent the believer will have a family that cannot be seen by the others." Narrated Abu Imran in another narration, the tent is 60 miles in height. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 467. Narrated by Abu Huraira, Allah's Apostle said, Allah said, "I have prepared for my pious slaves things which have never been seen by an eye, or heard by an ear, or imagined by a human being." If you wish, you can recite this verse from the Holy Quran. No soul knows what is kept hidden for them, of joy as a reward for what they used to do. 32.17. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 468. Narrated by Abu Huraira, Allah's Apostle said, "The first group of people who will enter paradise will be glittering, like the moon when it is full. They will not spit or blow their noses or relieve nature. Their utensils will be of gold and their combs of gold and silver, in their centers the aloe wood will be used, and their sweat will smell like musk. Every one of them will have 2 wives, the marrow of the bones of the wives' legs will be seen through the flesh out of excessive beauty. They, i.e. the people of paradise, will neither have differences nor hatred amongst themselves, their hearts will be as if one heart, and they will be glorifying Allah in the morning and in the evening." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 469. Narrated by Abu Huraira, Allah's Apostle said, "The first batch of people who will enter paradise will be glittering, like a full moon, and those who will enter next will be glittering, like the brightest star. Their hearts will be as if the heart of a single man, for they will have no enmity amongst themselves, and every one of them shall have 2 wives, each of whom will be so beautiful, pure, and transparent that the marrow of the bones of their legs will be seen through the flesh. They will be glorifying Allah in the morning and evening, and will never fall ill, and they will neither blow their noses, nor spit. Their utensils will be of gold and silver, and their combs will be of gold, and the fuel used in their centers will be the aloes wood, and their sweat will smell like musk." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 470. Narrated by Sal bin Sa'd, the Prophet said, "Verily, 70,000 or 700,000 of my followers will enter paradise altogether, so that the first and the last amongst them will enter at the same time, and their faces will be glittering like the bright full moon." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 471. Narrated by Anas bin Malik, a silken cloak was presented to the Prophet, and he used to forbid the usage of silk by men. When the people were fascinated by the cloak, he said, "By Allah in whose hands the life of Muhammad is, the handkerchiefs of Sa'd bin Mu'adh in paradise are better than this." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 472. Narrated by Al-Bara bin Azib, Allah's Apostle was given a silken garment, and its beauty and delicacy astonished the people. On that, Allah's Apostle said, "No doubt, the handkerchiefs of Sa'd bin Mu'adh in paradise are better than this." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 473. Narrated by Sal bin Sa'd al-Sa'di, Allah's Apostle said, "A place in paradise equal to the size of a lash is better than the whole world and whatever is in it." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 474. Narrated by Anas bin Malik, the Prophet said, "There is a tree in paradise, which is so big and huge that, if a rider travels in its shade for 100 years, he would not be able to cross it." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 475. Narrated by Abu Huraira, the Prophet said there is a tree in paradise, which is so big and huge that a rider could travel in its shade for 100 years. And if you wish, you can recite, in shade long extended, 5630, and a place in paradise equal to an arrow bow of one of you, is better than the whole earth, on which the sun rises and sets. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 476. Narrated by Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, the first batch of people who will enter paradise will be glittering like the full moon, and the batch next to them will be glittering like the most brilliant star in the sky. Their hearts will be as if the heart of a single man, for they will have neither enmity nor jealousy amongst themselves. Everyone will have 2 wives from the Huris, who will be so beautiful, pure, and transparent that the marrow of the bones of their legs will be seen through the bones and the flesh. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 477. Narrated by Al-Bara bin Azib, the Prophet, after the death of his son Ibrahim, said, there is a wet nurse for him, i.e. Ibrahim, in paradise. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 478. Narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, the Prophet said, the people of paradise will look at the dwellers of the lofty mansions, i.e. a superior place in paradise, in the same way as one looks at a brilliant star far away in the east or in the west on the horizon. All that is because of their superiority over one another, in rewards. On that the people said, O Allah's Apostle, are these lofty mansions for the prophets which nobody else can reach? The Prophet replied, no. By Allah in whose hands my life is, these are for the men who believed in Allah and also believed in the Apostles. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 479. Narrated by Sahl bin Sa'd, the Prophet said, paradise has 8 gates, and one of them is called Ar-Rayyan, through which none will enter but those who observe fasting. The Prophet also said, if a person spends 2 different kinds of something, for Allah's cause, he will be called from the gates of paradise. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 480. Narrated by Abu Dhar, while the Prophet was on a journey, he said, regarding the performance of the Zuhr prayer, wait till it, i.e. the weather, gets cooler. He said the same again till the shade of the hillocks extended. Then he said, delay the Zuhr prayer till it gets cooler, for the severity of heat is from the increase in heat of hell, fire. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 481. Narrated by Abu Sa'd, the Prophet said, delay the Zuhr prayer till it gets cooler, for the severity of heat is from the increase in the heat of hell, fire. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 482. Narrated by Abu Huraira, Allah's Apostle said, the hell fire complained to its Lord saying, O my Lord, my different parts eat up each other. So, he allowed it to take 2 breaths, one in the winter and the other in summer, and this is the reason for the severe heat and the bitter cold you find in weather. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 483. Narrated by Abu Jamra ad-Dabi, I used to sit with Ibn Abbas in Mecca. Once I had a fever and he said to me, cool your fever with Zamzam water, for Allah's Apostle said, the fever, is from the heat of the hell fire, so, cool it with water, or Zamzam water. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 484. Narrated by Rafi bin Khadij, I heard the Prophet saying, fever is from the heat of the hell fire, so cool it with water. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 485. Narrated by Aisha, the Prophet said, fever is from the heat of the hell fire, so cool it with water. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 486. Narrated by Ibn Umar, the Prophet said, "Fever is from the heat of the hell, fire, so abate fever with water." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 487. Narrated by Abu Huraira, Allah's Apostle said, "Your ordinary fire is one of 70 parts of the hell, fire." Someone asked, "O Allah's Apostle, this ordinary fire would have been sufficient to torture the unbelievers." Allah's Apostle said, "The hell fire has 69 parts more than the ordinary worldly fire, each part is as hot as this worldly fire." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 488. Narrated by Yali, that he heard the Prophet on the pulpit reciting, "They will cry, O Malik." 43.77, Malik is the gatekeeper, angel, of the hell, fire. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 489. Narrated by Abu Wail, somebody said to Usama, "Will you go to so-and-so, i.e. Uthman, and talk to him, i.e. advise him regarding ruling the country?" He said, "You see that I don't talk to him. Really I talk to, advise, him secretly without opening a gate of affliction, for neither do I want to be the first to open it, i.e. rebellion, nor will I say to a man who is my ruler that he is the best of all the people after I have heard something from Allah's Apostle." They said, "What have you heard him saying?" He said, "I have heard him saying, a man will be brought on the day of resurrection and thrown in the hell, fire, so that his intestines will come out, and he will go around like a donkey goes around a millstone. The people of hell, fire will gather around him and say, 'O so-and-so, what is wrong with you? Didn't you used to order us to do good deeds and forbid us to do bad deeds?' He will reply, 'Yes, I used to order you to do good deeds, but I did not do them myself, and I used to forbid you to do bad deeds, yet I used to do them myself.'" Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 490. Narrated by Aisha, magic was worked on the Prophet so that he began to fancy that he was doing a thing which he was not actually doing. One day he invoked Allah for a long period and then said, "I feel that Allah has inspired me as how to cure myself." Two persons came to me, in my dream, and sat, one by my head and the other by my feet. One of them asked the other, "What is the ailment of this man?" The other replied, "He has been bewitched." The first asked, "Who has bewitched him?" The other replied, "Lubayd bin al-Asam." The first one asked, "What material has he used?" The other replied, "A comb, the hair gathered on it, and the outer skin of the pollen of the male date palm." The first asked, "Where is that?" The other replied, "It is in the well of Darwan." So, the Prophet went out towards the well and then returned and said to me on his return, "Its date palms, the date palms near the well, are like the heads of the devils." I asked, "Did you take out those things with which the magic was worked?" He said, "No, for I have been cured by Allah and I am afraid that this action may spread evil amongst the people." Later on the well was filled up with earth. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 491. Narrated by Abu Huraira, Allah's Apostle said, "During your sleep, Satan knots 3 knots at the back of the head of each of you, and he breathes the following words at each knot: 'The night is long, so keep on sleeping.' If that person wakes up and celebrates the praises of Allah, then 1 knot is undone, and when he performs ablution the 2nd knot is undone, and when he prays, all the knots are undone, and he gets up in the morning lively and gay, otherwise he gets up dull and gloomy." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 492. Narrated by Abdullah, it was mentioned before the Prophet that there was a man who slept the night till morning, after sunrise. The Prophet said, "He is a man in whose ears, or ear, Satan had urinated." Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 493. Narrated by Ibn Abbas, the Prophet said, if any one of you, when having sexual relation with his wife, say, in the name of Allah, O Allah, protect us from Satan and prevent Satan from approaching our offspring you are going to give us, and if he begets a child, as a result of that relation, Satan will not harm it. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 494. Narrated by Ibn Umar, Allah's Apostle said, when the upper edge of the sun appears, in the morning, don't perform a prayer till the sun appears in full, and when the lower edge of the sun sets, don't perform a prayer till it sets completely. And you should not seek to pray at sunrise or sunset, for the sun rises between two sides of the head of the devil, or Satan. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 495. Narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, the Prophet said, if while you are praying, somebody intends to pass in front of you, prevent him, and should he insist, prevent him again, and if he insists again, fight with him, i.e. prevent him violently, e.g. pushing him violently, because such a person is, like, a devil. Narrated Muhammad bin Sirin, Abu Hurairah said, Allah's Apostle put me in charge of the zakat of Ramadan, i.e. zakat al-fitr. Someone came to me and started scooping some of the foodstuff of zakat with both hands. I caught him and told him that I would take him to Allah's Apostle. Then Abu Hurairah told the whole narration and added, he, i.e. the thief, said, whenever you go to your bed, recite the verse of Al-Kursi, 2.255, for then a guardian from Allah will be guarding you, and Satan will not approach you till dawn. On that the Prophet said, he told you the truth, though he is a liar, and he, the thief, himself was the Satan. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 496. Narrated by Abu Hurairah, Allah's Apostle said, Satan comes to one of you and says, who created so and so, till he says, who has created your Lord? So, when he inspires such a question, one should seek refuge with Allah and give up such thoughts. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 497. Narrated by Abu Hurairah, Allah's Apostle said, when the month of Ramadan comes, the gates of paradise are opened and the gates of the hell fire are closed, and the devils are chained. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 498. Narrated by Ubay bin Ka'b, that he heard Allah's Apostle saying, the Prophet, Moses said to his attendant, bring us our early meal, 18.62. The latter said, did you remember when we betook ourselves to the rock? I indeed forgot the fish and none but Satan made me forget to remember it. 18.63, Moses did not feel tired till he had crossed the place which Allah ordered him to go to. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 499. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar, I saw Allah's Apostle pointing towards the east saying, lo! Afflictions will verily emerge hence, afflictions will verily emerge hence where the side of the head of Satan appears. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 500. Narrated by Jabir, the Prophet said, when night falls, then keep your children close to you, for the devil spread out then. An hour later you can let them free, and close the gates of your house, at night, and mention Allah's name thereupon, and cover your utensils, and mention Allah's name thereupon, and if you don't have something to cover your utensil, you may put across it something, e.g. a piece of wood etc. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 501. Narrated by Safiyyah bint Huwai, while Allah's Apostle was in itikaf, I called on him at night and having had a talk with him, I got up to depart. He got up also to accompany me to my dwelling place, which was then in the house of Usama bin Zayd. 2 Ansari men passed by, and when they saw the Prophet they hastened away. The Prophet said, to them, Don't hurry. It is Safiya, the daughter of Huai, i.e. my wife. They said, Glorified be Allah. O Allah's apostle! How dare we suspect you? He said, Satan circulates in the human mind as blood circulates in it, and I was afraid that Satan might throw an evil thought, or something, into your hearts. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 502. Narrated by Sulaiman bin Surd, while I was sitting in the company of the Prophet, two men abused each other and the face of one of them became red with anger, and his jugular veins swelled, i.e. he became furious. On that the Prophet said, I know a word, the saying of which will cause him to relax, if he does say it. If he says, I seek refuge with Allah from Satan, then all his anger will go away. Somebody said to him, the Prophet has said, seek refuge with Allah from Satan. The angry man said, am I mad? Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 503. Narrated by Ibn Abbas, the Prophet said, if any one of you, on having sexual relation with his wife, says, O Allah, protect me from Satan, and prevent Satan from approaching the offspring you are going to give me, and if it happens that the lady conceives a child, Satan will neither harm it nor be given power over it. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 504. Narrated by Abu Huraira, the Prophet offered a prayer, and, after finishing, he said, Satan came in front of me trying persistently to divert my attention from the prayer, but Allah gave me the strength to overpower him. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 505. Narrated by Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, when the call for the prayer is pronounced, Satan takes to his heels, passing wind with noise. When the call for the prayer is finished, he comes back. And when the iqamah is pronounced, he again takes to his heels, and after its completion, he returns again to interfere between the praying person and his heart, saying to him, remember this or that thing till the person forgets whether he has offered 3 or 4 rakat, so if one forgets whether he has prayed 3 or 4 rakati, he should perform 2 prostrations of sahu, i.e. forgetfulness. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 506. Narrated by Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, when any human being is born, Satan touches him at both sides of the body with his 2 fingers, except Jesus, the son of Mary, whom Satan tried to touch but failed, for he touched the placenta cover instead. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 507. Narrated by Alqamah, I went to Sham, and asked, who is here? The people said, Abu ad-Darda. Abu Darda said, is the person whom Allah has protected against Satan, as Allah's apostle said, amongst you. The sub-narrator, Mughira, said that the person who was given Allah's refuge through the tongue of the Prophet was Amr bin Yasir. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 508. Narrated by Aisha, the Prophet said, while the angels talk amidst the clouds about things that are going to happen on earth, the devils hear a word of what they say and pour it in the ears of a soothsayer as one pours something in a bottle, and they add 100 lies to that, one word. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 509. Narrated by Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, yawning is from Satan, and if any one of you yawns, he should check his yawning as much as possible, for if any one of you, during the act of yawning, should say, ha, Satan will laugh at him. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 510. Narrated by Aisha, on the day of the battle of Uhud, when the pagans were defeated, Satan shouted, O slaves of Allah! Beware of the forces at your back, and on that the Muslims of the front files fought with the Muslims of the back files, thinking they were pagans. Hudhaifa looked back to see his father Al-Yaman, being attacked by the Muslims. He shouted, O Allah slaves! My father! My father. By Allah, they did not stop till they killed him. Hudhaifa said, May Allah forgive you. Urway said that Hudhaifa continued to do good, invoking Allah to forgive the killer of his father till he met Allah, i.e. died. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 511. Narrated by Aisha, I asked the Prophet about one's looking here and there during the prayer. He replied, It is what Satan steals from the prayer of any one of you. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 512. Narrated by Abu Qatada, as below, i.e. Hadith number 513. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 513. Narrated by Abu Qatada, the Prophet said, A good dream is from Allah, and a bad or evil dream is from Satan, so if any one of you has a bad dream of which he gets afraid, he should spit on his left side and should seek refuge with Allah from its evil, for then it will not harm him. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 514. Narrated by Abu Huraira, Allah's Apostle said, If one says 100 times in one day, none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, the alone who has no partners, to him belongs dominion and to him belong all the praises, and he has power over all things, i.e. omnipotent, one will get the reward of manumitting 10 slaves, and 100 good deeds will be written in his account, and 100 bad deeds will be wiped off or erased from his account, and on that day he will be protected from the morning till evening from Satan, and nobody will be superior to him except one who has done more than that which he has done. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 515. Narrated by Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas, once Umar asked the leave to see Allah's Apostle in whose company there were some Qurayshi women who were talking to him and asking him for more financial support, raising their voices. When Umar asked permission to enter, the women got up, quickly, hurrying to screen themselves. When Allah's Apostle admitted Umar, Allah's Apostle was smiling. Umar asked, O Allah's Apostle, may Allah keep you happy always. Allah's Apostle said, I am astonished at these women who were with me. As soon as they heard your voice, they hastened to screen themselves. Umar said, O Allah's Apostle, you have more right to be feared by them. Then he addressed those women, saying, O enemies of your own souls, do you fear me and not Allah's Apostle? They replied, Yes, for you are a fearful and fierce man as compared with Allah's Apostle. On that Allah's Apostle said, to Umar, by him in whose hands my life is, whenever Satan sees you taking a path, he follows a path other than yours. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 516. Narrated by Abu Huraira, the Prophet said, If any one of you rouses from sleep and performs the ablution, he should wash his nose by putting water in it and then blowing it out thrice, because Satan has stayed in the upper part of his nose all the night. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 517. Narrated by Abdurrahman bin Abdullah bin Abdurrahman bin Abi Saysa Ansari, that Abu Said al-Khudri said to his father, I see you are fond of sheep and the desert, so when you want to pronounce the adhan, raise your voice with it, for whoever will hear the adhan, whether a human being, or a jinn, or anything else, will bear witness, in favor on the day of resurrection. Abu Said added, I have heard this from Allah's Apostle. Sahih Bukhari Volume 4, Book 54, Hadith number 518. Narrated by Ibn